with the monster creation, one of the great things that we got to do is because there's this eldritch contamination running through the city, you really just got to play around with the idea of, well, this stuff mutates everything. So what sort of stuff do you find in a city that we can mutate? And we kind of went through the list. People, obviously.
Yeah.
So you have your delirium dregs, they're called, which are all of the lost souls who got mutated and horribly warped. And the way that the dreg stat block actually works, it's great. There's like a little normal stat block that you can use, and then a bunch of different variations for whether it's the tentacle-limbed one or the one with the big brain on its head, or all of these different variations. One shoots lasers, and so
some explode.
Some explode.
Yeah.
So you have all of these different variations of the drag that you just tack on which mutation you want onto the standard stat block. But beyond the people who were lost in Drakkenheim, there's also, we thought, well, what does a city have? A city has rats. A city has birds, it has fish, it has dogs.
And all these have been corrupted and contaminated into monsters. But of course, the contamination doesn't stop at organic creatures. Elementals have been corrupted. So there's a contaminated version of all four of the classic elementals. So we have like the living haze, the walking delirium geode, which is the earth elemental.
What's the fire one?
The entropic flame.
The entropic flame.
Yeah. Do you want to tell about the legendary monsters?
Yeah, so within the various groups that I mentioned, there are legendary leaders to these monster packs. So among the rats, you have the famous Rat Prince, who was a bit of a standout in our own show. The Rat Prince is kind of the lowest level of these legendary monsters, but still a vicious threat. Amongst the harpies, which is what happens to all the birds in Drakkenheim, they all became harpies. You have the Crimson Countess, who can throw you off of the high towers of Drakkenheim that still stand.
They've turned the clock tower into their roost. And the clock tower is an important location because it's in the middle of the city, and it's one of the only places that is high enough above the haze that characters can take a long rest.
Yeah. So first you got to fight the Crimson Countess.
Yeah, you got to take out the harpies.
One of my personal favorites in the book is the dogs in the city became what we call the Garmier, kind of along the lines of gnolls, but we took a little bit of a different approach, more wolfish than hyena. And they are led by a beast known as the Lord of the Feast, who is a great hunter who uses Drakkenheim as his hunting ground and loves hunting adventurers. So the Lord of the Feast is roaming the streets, and one of my favorite bits is in the random encounter tables. There's a lot of just random monsters that you can run into, but there's always a chance that you can accidentally run into the Lord of the Feast just roaming the streets. And then we also have... there's one that I'm going to keep a secret because it's a bit of a plot point, but there is also a great gift that the dwarves gave to the city of Drakkenheim well before it was destroyed was the Executioner, which was a giant construct that sits in Slaughterstone Square and performed all the executions for the city. But of course, the haze corrupts even constructs. So now the large mammoth Executioner construct is also roaming the city streets looking for people to execute.
The story of Drakkenheim has continued beyond the original campaign. But many of the monsters that I've created over the years, that Kelly has created over the years, the magic items that we worked on together, that we faced, now they're in the D&D Beyond compendium. And my DMing style is I just have my laptop open with a bunch of browser tabs open to different monsters and notes and everything in D&D Beyond.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So for us, this is a little bit of a homecoming because we've used D&D Beyond as a tool in our games for years, and being able to have our content and the material that we created just there, we're going to be using it. Like, that's been the most exciting part, is that, oh yeah, I just can look up. There's that monster that we wrote with all the stats, and you know there were still several monsters that we'd created even for the book that I don't think I had put them into D&D Beyond for our own games yet, and so now they're all there.
It's
with
so
their
much
full stat
easier.
box.
It's such a useful tool.